Hey, this is René, and in this video I want to start a new programming tutorial where we will implement a Supertrend expert advisor. So for everyone who does not know the Supertrend indicator, it is a pretty famous indicator which is not part of the standard set of indicators in the MetaEditor 5. So if you do not have a Supertrend indicator, you can check out the link in the description. I will post a download link there for the Supertrend indicator. And I already have the file here, or the files. I have two files here, which is the first one is the source code. The second one is the executable. I think I will only upload the source code. So let me just demonstrate you how to install it in your MetaTrader. So you copy the source code and you go to your MetaTrader 5 and you simply click on File, Open Data Folder. Then you click on MQL5 and Indicators and you simply paste the file here. So I now have the supertrend.mq5 file here and I can close this folder again. If I now try to find this indicator here, it is not there. Even after refreshing, I cannot find it. And this is because I only have the source code right now. And what I have to do is I have to go to the MetaEditor, which I can find by clicking on Language Editor or Tools and then Language Editor. It will automatically open the editor for me. And then on the left side, you can see the navigator. And if you click on View and Navigator, you can open and close it. And there you will find a folder which is called Indicators. And there we can find the supertrend.mq5 file. So I double click it and this will open the source code. And if I now compile this source code, which means that I create an executable, I will now automatically find it in the MetaTrader 5. So now in the Indicators folder in the Navigator tab here, I can find the Supertrend indicator and I can now drag and drop it on any chart that I want to use it with. So as you can see here, we only have two settings, which is the period and the multiplier. And yeah, you can choose the standard settings, for example, like this. And you will now see there is a line which is drawn above or below the current candles. And whenever this line is hit by the price and the price moves, for example, above the line, then this super trend changes. It changes the color and the position of the line. So it moves from above the candles to below the candles. And there is a pretty common strategy, which is simply trading the super trend signals. For example, let us have a look at the signal here. You can see the price falls below the super trend. So we would have an entry somewhere here, for example, and we would trade until the trend changes again. And of course, you can have ATP, you can have an SL, you can have a trading stop, and we will cover all this in the upcoming videos. But first of all, let's start with this really basic strategy. So I can remove this RSI window here, I think, because we do not need it. And what we want to do now is we want to go back to our editor here, to the MetaQuotes language editor. So we can open this again and we can create a new expert advisor. Expert advisors are the kind of files that are used to, or the programs that are used to automatically trade a strategy. So we can create, for example, the Supertrend system. You can choose whatever name you want to choose for this program, and then we can click on next, and finish. And you can see there is a new file created, which is automatically placed inside of this experts folder here. You will find the Supertrend system somewhere here, and this is like the base skeleton for a expert advisor. This is like a template. And what we have here is we have many of these gray lines. I can simply remove all of them because they do not impact the program at all. They only provide information for the programmer, but this is no really complex program, so we do not really need comments. Then I usually rearrange the brackets here, like I do right now, because this is the way that I used to program, and this is the way, that I always place the brackets. We will have a look at these three functions real quick. But first of all, we can also delete all the three lines here at the top because we do not need them. And I always used to recompile the program quite often, because whenever I compile the program, it will now take the source code and create an executable. So you can see here in the navigator again, I already have the Supertrend system here, and I can already put it on any chart. And you can see this program can be executed. And it will already work. There is no code inside of these three functions, so of course we do not see any output on the chart or something like this. But if we, for example, add a print statement here, we can say this is like the onInit function, and a print statement is a function which then prints a text in the expert's journal here. So you can see in your MetaEditor 5 in the toolbox, you can click on experts, and you can see there is a text output, which is this is the onInit function. Because whenever I activate this program, let me clear everything. Whenever I activate the program, the onInit function is automatically called. And you can say this. This means that the code which is inside of the body of this onInit function is then executed. And the body is indicated by this opening bracket and this closing bracket. So everything in between of these two brackets is the body of this onInit function, and it will be executed whenever the program is initialized. So the program is initialized, for example, when I activate the program, or when I start the MetaTrader, or when I simply change the time frame, as you can see here. There are more functions, for example, the onInit function. I can add another text for this, saying this is the onInit function, and you can see whenever I remove the program from the chart, like this, the onInit function is called just a split second before the program is removed. So whatever code is inside of the body of the onInit function, it is executed once the program is deinitialized. And if we activate it again, you can see this is also executed whenever or before we change the time frame. So it first calls the onInit and then the onInit. And there's one more function left, which is the onTick function. And we can, of course, add a output here, and you can see whenever there's a tick or a price movement in the chart, this onTick function is called. So most of the time you want to place your main part of the code in the onTick function, because this is the function which is called whenever there is a price movement. So this is the place where you want to do all the calculations. So let me remove these print statements here because we do not need them. We know what these functions do. And we can simply go ahead and calculate the indicator values. So, what I didn't mention is here, there is some more stuff when it comes to functions like parameters or return values. And we do not have to cover this right now. If it will become necessary for us in the upcoming videos, I will of course explain it. But right now, it is simply important that these functions are automatically called by the MetaTrader, and whenever they are called, the code inside of the body of the function will be processed. So when we want to receive information from this Supertrend indicator here, we first of all have to create a handle. So we can say, for example, ST handle, which is Supertrend handle, and we can then update the value in this ST handle variable. This is an integer variable. An integer variable is any number, pretty much, like 2, 3, 4, or 4,000 and something like this. So it is any number without digits. And a handle is pretty much just a predefined set of settings for this specific indicator. So the program automatically knows what specific indicator you want to work with. So if we have a custom indicator like the Supertrend indicator, and I said before, this is now part of the standard set of indicators in the MetaEditor 5, we have to use the iCustom function. And you can always, if you have a question about any function, click inside of the name of this function, and you can click F1 on your keyboard, and it should automatically open the reference. If it does not automatically open the reference, you can click on Help, MQL5 reference. So, and while we are looking at this function, we can see this function has a return value and parameters. So this is already the point where I have to explain it. So whenever you have a function can have parameters. And if there are parameters, you have to provide these parameters whenever you call the function. So for example, we see these 3 parameters here. And it is first of all a string parameter, which is the symbol that we want to calculate this indicator for. And if you use underscore symbol, it is always the name of the current chart symbol. So for example, if I print this, I can show it to you real quick. The program is still active, and you can see this is euro-US-dollar right now because the program is running on the euro-US-dollar chart. If I activate the program on the US-dollar-Japanese-yen chart, it will output US-dollar-Japanese-yen. So this is a great way how you can use this underscore symbol system variable, because it will always hold the value of the current chart. So, as another parameter here for the Supertrend handle, we then have to provide a time period. So, these parameters are always comma separated. So, we can provide a time period, and the time period can be any value of this enumeration here. So, if you click on this enum timeframes, you can see all the possible IDs here. So, for example, we can say period M1, which would be the 1 minute chart. And you can provide it here as pretty much as a hard-coded parameter for this variable, but there's a much more smarter way. You can create an input variable of type enum timeframes. So this is pretty much timeframe. I will explain it to you in a second. So we can create a variable of this enumeration type here. So instead of writing integer like we did here, we write the identifier of this enumeration as a type in front of the name of the variable. And before the type, we also add a input. And what this does is, and we provide a default value, which is a period M1. And what this does is, it allows the user to have a look at the settings here and then provide a time frame from a drop-down menu. And this is a really cool way to make it easy for the user to choose the time frame. And you can, of course, always choose the current chart time frame if you choose current here. For example, period current, we can set it as a standard value here. And we can now use this time frame variable that we created here as a parameter for the iCustom function. So whatever the user chooses here as a time frame will then be provided for the iCustom function. We then have to provide a indicator name, and this is the file pretty much here, supertrend.mq5. So we can say, for example, supertrend or ex5 in this case, because we want to have the executable. And then we can add some more parameters, which is then a list. Let's go back to the iCustom, which is then a list of the indicator input parameters. And as we already realized, the indicator has 2 parameters, which is the periods and the multiplier. And we can say we want this as input variables also. So we can say periods, for example, 10, and input double multiplier 3.0 is the standard setting. So we can say periods multiplier like this. And there's a typo somewhere. Periods like this. Okay, if we compile this, this works. Make sure that you don't forget the semicolon to close this line here. So we already learned or used a new variable type here, which is double. And double is not only like a number like 3 or 4 or 24, but it can have digits, like we have here. So this is, for example, a number like 24.2. This would be a double variable, and you can, or a double number, pretty much, a double, and you cannot store it in a integer type variable because it has a different type. So you need a double variable for this. Okay, since we now created this handle, which is pretty much only a pointer to a specific address in the memory, which holds this indicator specifications. But what we can do now is we can go to our onTick function, and we can say we want to have a double array which holds the Supertrend values. And we can say, oh yeah, a double array is indicated by these squared brackets here behind the variable name. And this variable can now hold not only one value, but it can hold several values. And we will fill values inside of this array using the copy buffer function. And this copy buffer function has several parameters. For example, we can provide the st handle here. And then we can provide a buffer number. And as you can see, the Supertrend only has one value. You can see it in the data window. So this value will have the buffer number 0. And then we have a starting position. So we can say, for example, we want to have like the current value of the Supertrend, which would be starting position 0. And then we want to have a count. And the count may be 3, for example. And we have to provide an array where we want to store the values inside. So what this does is it takes this starting position here, which is starting position 0, which means the last bar in this chart. Starting position 1 would be the previous last bar, starting position 2, the bar before this one, and 3 would be the bar before that one, and so on and so on. So if we have starting position 0, that means that we want to start at the very last bar in this chart. And then we have a count of 3, which means that we want to have 3 values starting from the very last bar here stored inside of our array. So we will receive this value, and this value. And we can demonstrate this by simply, for example, printing the values. Print st0, st1, and st2. And by using these squared brackets and a index, we can then say what specific value we want to receive from this double array. And I forgot this semicolon. And if we do it like this, you can see the value here is now printed. And this is not really working. I think it is because, are there different settings? No, it's 10 and 3. Oh, I have the 1 minute time frame here. I have to choose current, of course, to receive the values from the current chart. And you can see, if you compare the values in the data window here for the Supertrend, it is exactly the same, which is printed in the expert journal here. So you can see, this is a way to receive values from any indicator by using the iCustom function and the copy buffer function. And we can of course, also place a comment in the upper left corner of the chart by using the comment function for this. And we can say, for example, Supertrend, Supertrend value 0, like this. And then we can print Supertrend value 0. Then we can go, for example, to a new line using this \n operator thing here. We can say Supertrend value at position 1, which will then be Supertrend value 1 of this array. And we can say Supertrend value at array position 2, which will then be Supertrend 2. And you can, which is also important, you cannot access index 3 here. If I try this, this will produce an error, as you can see here. This is because we only stored 3 values inside of this array, and the value or the indexing starts at 0. So we have index 0, 1, and 2. And index 3 is not accessible because we only have 3 values. And so if I activate the program again, you can see the values are now printed in the upper left corner, and this is super handy. And you can see the value for the last or the current bar now changes because, yeah, you can see there's a drop pretty much in the Supertrend line. So this is a way to receive all the values from the Supertrend. We will use these values in the next or in the upcoming video to create, whoops, I don't want to see news here, to create signals for this trading program. Oh, and there's one last thing that I want to explain here for the iCustom function. I said this has a return value. If a function has a return value, it simply means that after the PC processes the function, it will then return a value, which we can use to, for example, store the value inside of a variable. And since we created this variable here, we can store the return value of this iCustom function inside of the sthandle integer variable. And we can then use this variable in the onTick function because it is a global variable, which is declared outside of any function body. And we can then use it here for our copy buffer function to show the PC what exact specifications we chose for this Supertrend indicator and what exact indicator values we want to receive. So what we learned here is, how to receive values from a custom indicator. So make sure to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss out the upcoming videos where we will, finish this program and where we will, maybe even test it. So make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.